Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good.
Hi, Max. I first want to start. What was your first impressions of Henry when you first spoke to him over the phone and then met him in person?
Yeah, very positive guy. He just told me what he thought we can work on from last season to this season, and just kind of told me what he thinks about me as a player and how he sees me in his system. And my first impression was, seems like a nice guy. Wants to keep the ball, but also wants to implement his own things into his system. So, yeah, it's been fun to learn a new system and just everyone trying to adapt to how he wants to play.
What were some of the things he said to you that impressed you about either the system or what he thought, how you can fit in?
Yeah, specifically for me, he just really likes how I attack, how I go one-on-one against defenders. He said that's something he likes to have on his team is a couple of guys who can do that, sort of skill, I guess you could call it. Just, kind of being on the front foot a bit more and making them panic when we have the ball. That's one thing that kind of stuck with me. So just trying to be more aggressive in those situations, even more than I already am.
I was going to ask if you spoke about position because with the national team we've seen, you can play back line, you can play up front. Have you spoken about where you're going to play? Is it going to be the same as it was last year?
Yeah, slightly. To be honest, we haven't really played like a real game yet against a real opponent, so it's hard to tell. But I would imagine I would play, somewhere along the left side, whether it's like left back, left wing back, left winger. I really don't know, but whatever he needs from me, I'll do.
And he spoke when we first spoke to him. He's talked about directness in the offense and that being something you guys need to improve on. When he says that, what does it kind of mean to you? And do you feel like that's something that needs to be improved on?
Yeah, I think last year there was a lot of times when we'd have the ball the majority of the game, and we just sometimes we'd go side to side too much, or maybe not be as threatening as we'd like. So I definitely think there's an element of we can attack quicker when we have the ball and have more of a purpose with the ball. So I think that's kind of what he's alluding to, and yeah, it's definitely different, but we're embracing the challenge.
You mentioned the system. I know you're new, it's new, and you haven't played a game yet, but what are major differences that people might see based on what you guys have done so far?
I would say just attacking quicker. That's kind of what comes to mind right now. Sort of when it is on to go forward rather than hesitating and, maybe recycling it as much as we would do previously, just trying to, attack quicker, I would say.
How are those patterns and things coming? I know a lot of it's based on knowledge already of each other, but in a new system, do you feel like that's starting to come together?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of what he wants us to do and also just like the movements and chemistry that we have with one another on the field. Those things kind of come naturally, but yeah, I think it's going to be good for this next preseason trip because we're going to be playing some teams. So I think that'll be good to get a better idea of our identity.
And this is your first head coaching change as a pro. How do you feel like you've adapted to that? And just like this experience, obviously you've done national team stuff and whatnot, but I imagine this is probably something you foresaw in your career at some point. Just how do you feel like you've handled that?
Yeah, I've tried to approach it like, whenever there's a new coach, everyone has to prove themselves. So I think it's been good for me to, kind of go back to like square one where it's like I got to prove myself to a new coach again. And I feel like nobody's handed anything in these situations. So it's been like motivating for me to, come here and show what I can do.
Were you surprised at all how much Henrik knew about the team? It sounded like he'd done his homework based on when we talked to him when you guys were down in Florida.
Yeah, a little, to be honest. I know he was coaching his own team in Sweden. So I was definitely, what's the word? Like, pleased that like he knew a lot about the team and how we used to play and like the roster and everything. So like that was kind of good to know that he was obviously invested.
Max, that said, do you feel like where you're headed is perhaps going to be more successful given the building blocks you've worked on over the last 2 or 3 years? And I don't mean you personally, but generally speaking.
I think in theory, yeah, because if you think about it, everyone's going to become more well-rounded if you like embrace a new way to play combined with how we already were kind of tailored to play before. So I think if you kind of have the perspective of like if you learn to play this way, you become a lot more well-rounded as a player, therefore you become better. So I think that's what I'm definitely trying to embrace.
You mentioned the word identity. There was a lot of emphasis over the last 3 years on sustaining one's identity within a game. Almost to the point where some folks said, you know, maybe there should have been some changes going into this particular match. Not necessarily to cave to the opponent, but to match up with them a little bit differently. Do you get the sense that your new head coach is maybe going to be a little more flexible from game to game?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I could see that, but I mean, once again, it's hard to tell until we've actually like played games. You know what I'm saying? But I could see that though. I could see him, wanting to change things depending on who we're playing. Cause yeah, a lot of coaches like to do that.
You've got Westham out there, presumably training full-time with you during this preseason. Do you get a glimpse of what could be when you see him and other players interacting and you're a part of it too?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have Wes, back and healthy. Obviously, like a good striker, especially someone for myself to try and target in the box. So, yeah, I think it's a good group. We still have the chemistry. We have a lot of the same core guys. So it's definitely exciting.
Thanks.
When you have an off season like this, I know most off seasons you might feel like you're trying to physically get ready. Does this almost feel like an academic off season when you're kind of trying to learn something new and it's more than just the physical?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. I mean, anytime you like do something new or change happens, it's definitely hard mentally at first. So yeah, I feel like it is more mentally than physically, at least for me.
And then also physically, I mean, I know this ain't Fresno out here right now. What's this like and how much do you guys look forward to escaping to Florida?
Yeah, this is kind of wild for me, but yeah, I'm excited to go to Florida. It's a bit too cold for my liking, but it is what it is.
Thanks, man.
Anybody else?
Yeah. We asked Pat about this, but there's obviously the potential of the World Cup the middle of this season. How do you kind of manage knowing that that's out there and that could be something in your future while also getting ready for a season ahead?
Yeah, it's definitely a goal of mine. I don't shy away from, saying that. It's something I really want to be a part of, but like you said, in order for it to be possible, I just need to take care of the everyday training with Columbus Crew, playing games, performing well. So I'm just trying to stack good days, and obviously it's a goal of mine, but I got to take care of the short-term stuff first.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it, Max.
Thank you guys.
Sorry about the weather.